The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Here's what Mr. 10%, the big guy, President Biden, had to say about classified documents in his possession when he was gently queried by Judy Woodruff the other day.
What was totally irresponsible about the fact that you had some?
What they've informed me not to speak to this issue to any way try to prejudice the investigation that's going on. But what I was talking about was what was laid out. All these documents were top secret, code word, and all the rest. I'm not at liberty, and I'm not even sure. I made voluntarily, no one's had to threaten to do anything. Voluntarily open every single aperture I have with the house, offices, everything for them to come and look and spend hours searching my home. Invited them. Nobody. And so, and the best of my knowledge, the kinds of things they picked up are things that from 1974, and stray papers. There may be something else I don't know. But one of the things that happened is that what was not done well is as they packed up my offices to move them, they didn't do the kind of job that should have been done to go thoroughly through every single piece of literature that's there. But I'll just let the investigation have, decide what's going on, and we'll see what happens.
Oh, good.
Yeah, the same. He said that right away. It's the aides. The aides who packed my stuff up. It's their fault.
Stray papers, 1974.
What was going on?
Wait
there?
a second. I thought you don't know anything about them.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So let's let the investigation go on. I completely agree, and I assume that the big guy would have the same attitude toward the investigation into his son Hunter, and by extension his entire family, as per testimony from Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley before Jim Jordan's House Weaponization of Government Committee yesterday. Grassley saying the following.
Other whistleblower disclosures to my office make clear that the FBI has within its possession very significant, impactful, and voluminous evidence with respect to potential criminal conduct by Hunter and James Biden. These disclosures also allege that Joe Biden was aware of Hunter Biden's business arrangements and may have been involved in some of them. We still aren't sure what's been done with this information.
Yeah. Who investigates the investigators to let that investigation go on, since the FBI has been apparently for some time, per the retirement of that named FBI agent running interference, trying to derail the Hunter Biden / Biden Inc. investigation. Also something on the National Archives and their disparate treatment of Biden and the classified docs as compared to Trump.
You have searches for Democrats and raids for Republicans.
Lee Smith, who's a good investigative reporter, talked to him before, mentioned his work a number of times, has a good piece in Tablet magazine, closing in on the classified cover-up. He does the old follow the money, and he followed it, and he came up with the name David Rubenstein, who's the co-founder of the private equity firm Carlyle Group. He's a billionaire. He's also one of the more generous patrons of the National Archives. In 2013, the David M. Rubenstein Gallery at the National Archives was completed at a cost of $13.5 million, for example. He's also a major Biden ally. He's regularly hosted the Biden family at his Nantucket estate for Thanksgiving last year, the year before, and in 2014 as well, according to Lee Smith's reporting. Interesting. Also, he may have had influence in the personnel at the National Archives. Lee Smith tracks back senior staffing at the agency, and notes their sort of connection to Rubenstein's. For example, when David Ferrero, the recently retired chief archivist, was appointed by Barack Obama in 2009 to lead the National Archives, he was the university librarian and vice provost for library affairs at Duke University. At the same time, Rubenstein was the chair of Duke's Board of Trustees. The nominee to replace Ferriero, Colleen Shogun, is also affiliated with Rubenstein. She's currently the director of the David M. Rubenstein Center at the White House Historical Center.
Oh, perfect. It's a wonderful life.
Do you know David Rubenstein? No.
I don't.
No, but I do work for the David Rubenstein Center. But I
don't know if I've met him.
I wouldn't. No.
Yeah,
Did he
no.
weigh in on my behalf? Absolutely not. Very interesting. Well, just some fun. But again, Joe Biden's posture on these things, as you know, because he favors an independent Department of Justice, is to let the investigation run. Meanwhile, that's the signal to the politicized FBI to do everything they can to disrupt said investigations before they run. Scott McKay is the publisher at the Hayride, contributing editor at the American Spectator, and the author of the Revivalist Manifesto. And he joins us now. Scott, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Hey, guys, I haven't read that Lee Smith piece, and I got to get on that this
yeah.
morning. That's crazy.
Isn't it? Is it fun?
Perfect.
It's not a surprise.
Happy coincidences?
Right? I mean,
Good scene in the movie.
yeah, right.
Yeah, so
I mean,
anyway, no influence peddling.
Well, it's not a surprise, right? Because everywhere you look, you find things just like this. So, why not the National Archives? When you start to see this disparate treatment between, Joe Biden and Donald Trump, there was always going to be some connection that would explain that disparate treatment on something that used to be a fairly obscure issue of, the papers of these guys and whatever. The amazing thing is Biden's dodge, which I'm sure somebody gave him that to say. He says, I've got papers from 1974. And the question is, well, how did you get that? How are you holding classified documents from 1974? You weren't president then. You were a freshman senator in 1974. They're gonna let you keep classified documents then. So that in and of itself, I don't think that does a good job of saving Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And the real question here is obviously I think the House is going to do their job of holding him accountable, but I don't know that you're going to get any cooperation from the investigative agencies or the media, or at least the legacy corporate media. I mean, I think that, I was on a show earlier this week. We were talking about it's starting to look like Biden Filegate was really sort of a shot across the bow that somebody cooked up, which is, okay, we're going to do all this to let you know it's not a good idea to run in 2024.
Well, I know.
But,
I know.
Are we going to take you out? No.
Yeah, I know that was a very popular theory that was being bandied about by all sorts of conservative talkers. I never quite got that. And then you see the State of the Union address, and you're hearing what's emanating from within Democrat circles, and despite the lack of enthusiasm of Democrat voters to have Biden run again, there's nobody that's willing to issue any sort of frontal challenge at this point.
Right. Well, it's early though. I think we let this play out over the next 6 to 9 months, and we'll see. I mean, somebody not too long ago brought up the sort of historical analog here, which is Lyndon Johnson in 1968, because a few weeks before he made his announcement that he wasn't going to seek his party's nomination that year. I mean, Lyndon Johnson, his poll numbers weren't good, but among Democrats they were, and at the time there didn't seem to be anybody that made a lot of sense other than Johnson. And then, of course, RFK decided he was going to challenge Johnson, and Johnson got out. And they ultimately ended up with Hubert Humphrey. Sorry.
Well, right, but I mean, right. They didn't anticipate a terrible thing like RFK being assassinated, but the perhaps the more apt historical analogy we'll see will be Carter in 80, and it did face a challenge from Ted Kennedy, but Ted Kennedy was found wanting because he didn't know why he was running, and so you could see. I mean, I could see something like that happening. So unpopular, then somebody decides to step up, even a goof like our Governor Pritzker, because he's midterm, and so take a shot at it.
What about Governor Newsom? I mean,
possibly. I think less likely, actually, but if he's not sort of coordinated. But I mean, something like that could happen, and then we'll see if Biden can pass that test. And also, too, the party is doing his bidding by moving South Carolina ahead of Iowa to start the show.
That's definitely a Joe Biden thing, unless, and this is the other thing that keeps kind of coming around is if Team Obama decides that Biden isn't viable, and puts their sort of next man up into the mix, which is Michelle.
No way.
No.
And I'm just not. I'm not I'm not a real huge proponent of that theory. But on the other hand, Team Obama is going to need to find something, and if Kamala Harris, which at one point was sort of their chosen standard bearer. I mean, she's definitely not viable.
No, that ain't it. You're right about that.
Yeah. So what are you gonna do? Because I don't know. I mean, you're not gonna run Eric Holder for president.
No.
I don't think you can run Valerie Jarrett for president.
No.
I don't know who their
Oprah.
I don't know who their standard bearer would be.
But who started the Michelle
Jay-Z.
Obama rumor? Because I got to tell you, from when her days as first lady, she couldn't stand the bubble of Washington. Any chance she could, she'd say, "I'll never forget one time she said, I want to run out that door and go have ice cream."
Yeah, that's all a part, sort of a put upon act, because she loves being royalty, and that the real issue is she loves being royalty. And why would she take a step down by running for president? She's popular. She's rich beyond the wildest dreams. She's they're American royalty. So why sully yourself by participating through by going through that sausage grinder? You're not going to do it. She's not going to do it. No.
Well, I mean, I'm not pushing on this too hard, but the answer to that question would be that that this is something Barack Obama needs.
Oh, doing it for the man.
Because for sure that Barack would be running the country through Michelle if this were to happen.
Yeah. I just feel like
I'm not
Biden
convinced.
Right now?
I don't think it's viable.
Yeah.
Oh, he definitely is. But if Biden is no longer viable and Kamala Harris isn't viable, you need someone to be the puppet, and I don't know who they have. If it's I don't know who's electable if it's not Michelle. Which is not to say that I believe this, but it is sort of an interesting, kind of subject to talk through.
Yeah.
Could they find a way to make her president where she could still go on vacations and, do all of this kind of stuff? I don't know how you sell that to the American public either. Although, the Democrats are less interested in selling things to the American public because as far as they're concerned, elections are about how many ballots you can turn in and not how many voters you can amass on your side.
Hey, what do you think the over-under is? Just going back to this Rubenstein story. At the National Archives. What do you think the over-under is on the amount of time from when Attorney General Merrick Garland leaves the Department of Justice to the time he becomes the general counsel at the Carlyle Group? Do you think that will be more or less than a year?
I would say it's a matter of weeks.
Yeah, weeks.
Rather than a matter of months or pushing a year.
Yeah.
Unless somebody makes him a better offer.
Of course. Obviously.
I mean, for example, if Biden is able to get reelected, let's say, and Garland were to leave, they're going to put him on the Supreme Court.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
For the next, like if Clarence Thomas finally hangs it up, I mean, they will do everything they can to get him on the Supreme Court because it's what he wanted all along.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing. You've got a guy who's the Attorney General, and it's a consolation prize job for him.
All right, we have to get to one other thing because this is really important, more important than anything we've talked about before.
Mr. Bingle?
No. Well, no. This is
the dog. Well, actually, the dog is perfectly fine right now.
Oh,
so,
good.
Good. Okay.
We could put that one to bed.
We should read that article. I brought a tear to my eye. An article's titled, "And so begins the long goodbye."
He's got just so for the uninitiated, my dog has throat cancer. He's 8, and so ultimately this is going to be a real problem. But for right now, I mean, this dog is as chipper as you can get. So
enjoy the good days.
That's a blessing. Yeah.
I can't make out what kind of dog is he? What breed?
Oh, he's a boxer.
Oh, he's a boxer.
But he's a brindle boxer, which makes him, a little. He's kind of exotic.
Yes, he is.
And he acts a little exotic too. I mean, he's got a lot of personality. This dog.
All right. So no, my big question as a public policy matter was about American women and whether or not they are in fact undateable. I think a lot of people want to know this. What is the answer?
Well, the answer kind of, I guess, goes back, and I'm going to get myself in all kinds of trouble here. There's an old song from like when I was a kid, and MTV first popped, and I think the guy that sang it was a guy named Ian Hunter, and the name of the song was "All of the Good Ones Are Taken." And I think a lot, especially among single guys, you get a lot of this that the women who are really good at the skills that used to be ubiquitous among women get snapped up like right away because successful guys particularly are really, really looking for charming girls who are complimentary, and yet the culture doesn't teach women anymore to be charming and complimentary. It teaches them to be disagreeable and independent. You go on the internet, you can see this everywhere. Discussions of the topic of women who are like, "Hey, I'm super successful. I've got a really good job. I make good money. How come I can't find a good man?" And the answer is because guys don't care how much money you make. Right? They want their own money, and they want a really, really nice girl to be their wife. And it's like there's a social disconnect going on. I'm still single. I see this all the time, and it is maddening. Mostly for women because guys just do whatever.
No,
but,
I mean this is excellent news, Scott, because now we know for certain that Scott, it's not us.
Oh,
it has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do with us. We're completely exonerated.
I certainly don't want it to come off that way.
I'm kidding.
I think look, there's a lot of guys out there that don't pull their weight in terms of society or whatever, but the dating app world and all this kind of stuff has made it to the point where you swipe left or you swipe right, and that's like your final judgment on a human being before you even get to know them. And so like there's a list of criteria that women are used to doing this, and so you've got a small number of guys in the dating pool that take their pick on a vast number of women, and a lot of people are getting left out. And I had a conversation with somebody on this week. Is ultimately we're going to go back to arranged marriages because as lousy a system as that is, what we have might be worse. And I don't think it'll be the families arranging it back in the old days, but like you're going to go sign a contract with a matchmaker, and they're going to put you with somebody, and like you're going to just do it because you can't find anybody any other way. I mean, Tinder doesn't work, obviously, and some of these other things don't work.
Yeah,
exactly.
Scott McKay, publisher at Hayride, contributor to the American Spectator, author of the book The Revivalist Manifesto. Scott, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for letting me completely cut my throat socially with that last question.
You're very welcome.
Good luck
Not
with
a
the
problem.